Good evening, Colorado. We'll be starting here at 7:30. Hey, Sandy. Hey, Forest Mommy. Thanks for joining early. We'll be getting started here shortly. We'll be getting started here shortly. Starting at 7:30, we're going to cover the bills of the week. So some of the most important legislation going through the state capitol committees this week. Then we'll have two great guest stars tonight. We're going to have Representative Ryan Gonzalez to talk about his House Bill 1075 to repeal the egg law that is partially responsible for increasing the costs and creating shortages. And then we'll have Senator Scott Bright to talk about some of his legislation this year. So thanks for everybody for joining us. I see a lot of people in the chat. Please, if you have any questions or comments, we'll be monitoring the chat and responding, and we'll be getting started here shortly. Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, Brandon?
Hey, very well, very well. I'm gonna, yeah, no, it's good stuff. I'm very excited here. We're gonna have a great live stream tonight. Lots going on.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I think we got a big one coming up here.
Definitely, definitely for sure. So, really excited for everybody joining us there in the chat and on YouTube here. So I'll just do a quick little introduction here. So my name is Brandon Work from Free State, Colorado. We do these weekly live streams every Sunday night during the legislative session. We only have 120 days, thankfully, where these legislators are meeting to take more of our money, infringe on our rights, and come after our families and businesses. But Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, all things considered. We've had some good football tonight. I appreciate everybody that's gonna join us instead of the football game because it's a big one. So, uh, that being said, we've got a lot of really important things happening here in Colorado as well. So, thank you for showing up.
Yeah, thank you for sure, everybody. There's so much we can accomplish as a Liberty community if we work together. We have an action-packed evening tonight, so we're just going to go ahead and get started here with talking about some of the bills of the week. So here's our agenda for this evening here. At 7:30, just like we said, we're going to start going through the schedule of interesting bills. So we're going to look at the upcoming committee hearings, talk about which ones are most interesting, and try and give people the information they need to testify, to provide remote testimony, to show up in person, but have an influence over our legislative process. 8 p.m., we'll have Representative Ryan Gonzalez to talk about his egg bill. 8:30, Senator Scott Bright to talk about his bills. And then 9 p.m., we're going to go on to some of the bills we've been watching all year long. And as you can see, there's a good egg theme tonight. So because we're going to be talking to Ryan Gonzalez and his bill to restore some food freedom here in Colorado. So let's take a look at some of the legislative schedule here, the Colorado legislature schedule, and look at some of those bills of the week. So Monday's the first committee hearing we have some interest in. Of course, tomorrow, January 27th at 1:30 p.m. in the Agriculture, Water, and Natural Resources Committee, we're going to see that House Bill 1074, which is the change confinement standards for egg-laying hens. That's Representative Ryan Gonzalez and Senator Barb Kirkmeyer. We won't talk about it too much right now because we're going to have Ryan Gonzalez join us, but definitely people encourage you to show up and speak in support of this bill. Any quick thoughts on this one, Michael?
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna save a lot of mine for the upcoming discussion with Rep Gonzalez, but I'll just say this real quickly. My wife went to the store today to buy some eggs, and it cost her 10.47. So, and that's only for a dozen. That's not even 18 eggs, and that's at Walmart. So, uh, I'm looking forward to helping lower the cost of food for Colorado families.
That is absolutely insane. For sure. So we'll talk more about that one later. Another bill of interest this week being heard in the same committee on Monday, January 27th, House Committee Room 107, starting at 1:30 p.m. We're going to see House Bill 1064, the prohibition on cultivated meat. Now, this is a bill sponsored by Republicans, Representative Ty Winter, the Assistant House Minority Leader, and Rod Pelton there, the state senator. But this bill would basically outlaw the sale, manufacture, distribution of cultivated meat. That's lab grown meat. Michael, what do you think about this one?
I think this one's a slight overreach. If let's say they wanted to ban Colorado dollars going to the research or the promotion of this type of stuff, absolutely, yeah, go ahead and ban that because we don't need taxpayers going to something the free market might tell us they want or not want. We don't need to manipulate the market with our hard-earned tax money that was taken from us by the government. So, little bit of an overreach on this one, but I mean, me personally, I also don't want to be buying or ingesting cultivated meat either. So, I mean, it seems like a thing that we could let the free market decide, not necessarily the people at the Gold Dome.
100%. Yeah, bad bill for sure. I mean, total overreach. You get the point. You got to stand up for Colorado beef, but it is not the role of government. From a liberty perspective, 1064 is a bad bill. So that's what we got for Monday. We're moving pretty quick through the week. This is recorded on YouTube. So if you want to go back, find information, or let us know any questions you have. But we're going to keep going on until Tuesday. So, of course, the biggest bill of the legislative session so far, Tuesday, Senate Bill 25003, the semi-automatic firearms, the biggest gun ban in Colorado history. Absolutely horrible, horrible bill. I expect to see a lot of people down there Tuesday. It's at 2 p.m. Now the time has changed. It was 1:30, it was 2. They might move it back to 1:30. Don't be surprised. They are going to cut off testimony at 11 p.m., but this is a bill we really need everybody else to show up for as well. Michael, any thoughts here on Senate Bill 3?
We need everybody possible to get down to the Gold Dome on Tuesday. If you can't get down to the Gold Dome, make sure to sign up for testimony via Zoom. Uh, but we are expecting a lot of people to get down there. Even Super Bowl champion Derek Wolfe from the Denver Broncos. Really excited to see a lot of people who are going to go down to the Capitol testify on Tuesday. I'm hoping I can make it. I mean, I'm going to be down there for the egg bill on Monday afternoon, and then right as soon as I was able to get off one day, they announced the testimony date for this one, and I'm going to have to see if I can get down there after work. Hoping I can get down there and hope to join all of you tomorrow evening.
So Tuesday, January 28th, starting at 1:30 or 2 p.m. in the old Supreme Court. So that's up there on the third floor. Now, people need to know that there's a rally being held. I want to say that Alicia Garcia and RMGO helped coordinate that and get that set up. So there's a good pro-gun rally on the West Capitol steps starting at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Then RMGO is going to be delivering their petitions that people have been signing and get everybody rallied for the testimony. But of course, that's what we got for Tuesday. That's the big one for Tuesday. So let's move on to Wednesday here. Now, this was an issue last year. There was a backflow blunder, according to Pundit Pete there, who was reigning for state legislature last year. Unfortunately, didn't win, but did a video with him where he talked about this backflow prevention device requirement. House Bill 1077 seeks to remedy a mistake made last year where unfortunately the legislators didn't think through their legislation, which does happen, unfortunately, but they created a new licensing scheme where it made it hard for individuals who are not licensed plumbers to work on backflow prevention devices. So this bill basically is a good bill that it exempts individuals engaged in the business of inspecting, testing, and repairing backflow prevention devices from licensure requirements. Unfortunately, it does retain the licensure requirements for individuals engaged in the installation or removal of the devices. So it's a slight, very small move towards freedom, but we'll take it anything we can get at this point. What do you think about this one there, Michael?
I'm glad and honestly kind of shocked that the Democrats realized that this was a bad law and they overstepped their bounds. And I'm hoping that this one pushes through. I mean, we need to, really rail on the Democrats when they do something bad, which is very, very frequent. But if we can get them to do something that's going to be somewhat good for liberty, then we need to encourage that as well.
100%, 100%. So that's Wednesday in the House Committee Room 1112, the Business Affairs and Labor Committee in the House. So check that out or write in. You can provide that remote testimony. You can submit written testimony. You can reach out to the members of the committee and, of course, your state representative and senator to let them know what your thoughts are on any of these bills. So, also on Wednesday, some very interesting bills going to be heard in the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee. So, that's this Wednesday, January 29th, 1:30 p.m. That's in LSB, which is the Legislative Service Building, the separate building from the Capitol, just south of the state Capitol in Hearing Room A. They have two hearing rooms there. But one I've been kind of interested in is this House Bill 25-1060. I think it's a bad bill. Electronic fence detection systems. And unfortunately, we have Representative Matt Soper and Representative Chad Clifford, who is no friend of liberty, sponsoring this bill, unfortunately. But basically, this bill allows a local government to impose installation or operational requirements for an electronic fence detection system that are consistent with the installation or operational requirements generally required for other alarm systems. The bill allows a local government to require a permit for the installation or use of an electronic fence detection system that is not in addition to any permit generally required for the installation of any other alarm system. And it does allow a local government to inspect electronic fence detection system. So this is creating more government control over people's private property rights, which is to create these electronic fence detection systems. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
I'm in complete agreement with you. I mean, this is a bad bill. I mean, electric fence is kind of different than other types of fences. Uh, I grew up on a farm. We had electric fences. We used them to keep our cattle and our horses on our property. I mean, you can use them for you can also use them for other reasons. I mean, I know up in the mountains, I used to work up at a camp during college and right after college, and they use electric fences for you can use electric fences to keep bears out. I mean, electric fences are not necessarily anything that needs to get some sort of special. Um, you shouldn't need a special permit or any sort of special rules. You know, basically lorded down from to you by the government just to install electric fence or have a local electric fence for security. It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people have the right to protect their property. And if they want to install some sort of electronic fence detection system, detectors, electric fences, whatever they want to do, they should be allowed to without having to get permission from the government. Completely agree with you there. So that's a bad bill. And unfortunately, we see Representative Matt Soper, who's a Republican, sponsoring some really bad authoritarian legislation. This is not the last we're going to hear of his name, unfortunately, in a bad way. Another very interesting bill is Wednesday in the same Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee, House Bill 1079, Independent Ethics Commission Jurisdiction. So, this bill from Tammy Story and Mike Weissman, two of the worst legislators down at our state capitol from a liberty perspective, basically expands how the Independent Ethics Commission can have jurisdiction to hear complaints, issue findings, assess penalties, and issue advisory opinions on ethics issues concerning a special district official or employee or school district official or employee. Now, don't get me wrong, having more accountability for anybody in government is a good thing. But when you think about what an independent ethics commission might be focused on when it comes to some of the more left leaning policies of our state government and local governments, not necessarily going to be a good thing for them to be issuing all these ethics investigations, in my mind. Any thoughts, Michael?
No, I'm in agreement with you. I think uh, this is something that's best left to the counties. I mean, this should be left to the county and on the local municipality level. This doesn't need we don't need somebody raining down from above from Denver to tell somebody down in La Junta what to do. I
Yeah,
mean,
good point. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you're good. You're good.
Good point. Good point. So that's what we got on Wednesday in the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee. Um, Jumping over to Thursday now, and folks, we're flying through these because we got some great guests coming up. So please stick around. This is going to be a great live stream tonight. 8 o'clock, Representative Ryan Gonzalez. 8:30, Senator Scott Bright, and more bills to talk about. That's for sure. So we're on Thursday of this week. This is what's going on in the committee hearings in which you can have a voice. You can speak to these legislators. You can show up for in person or even provide remote testimony. So Thursday in Senate Committee Room 352 is the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee starting at 1:30. Now, I think this is a good bill. The first one they're hearing is Senate Bill 39, Agricultural Buildings Exempt from Energy Use Requirements. So some interesting stuff there, but basically allowing certain large buildings to not be covered under this energy use collecting and reporting requirement scheme. So, it's so unfortunate, as the bill reads here, or the description, the summary. Under current law, owners of certain large buildings, covered buildings, are required to annually collect and report each covered building's energy use to the Colorado Energy Office. Gosh, so authoritarian there. This bill will clarify that agricultural buildings are not covered buildings, and therefore owners of agricultural buildings are exempt from the energy use collecting and reporting requirements. The bill defines an agricultural building as a building or structure used to house agricultural implements, hay, unprocessed grain, poultry, livestock, or other agricultural products or inputs. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
I'm really hoping that we can get somebody to really push this through. I'm encouraged that we actually have bipartisan support for this. Matthew Martinez is not a Republican. Bridge, I know Byron Pelton, Senator Pelton is, and I believe Senator Bridges is also a Republican. So, oh, he's not. Okay, wow. I'm glad to actually see um, some real bipartisan support on this, led by two Democrats. I think this is a fantastic bill. So, good job, guys.
Yeah, they got to stop with all these ridiculous energy use requirements and reporting requirements, especially when it comes to food producers. It doesn't make sense. So, Senate Bill 39, a good bill. Senate
One
Bill
other
20.
thing oh,
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
One other thing I want to say is we have a $1 billion shortfall in our state budget. So this is definitely one thing that's going to help streamline our government and lead to reduce costs for the state of Colorado. So I mean, it's one of the few areas where I think that they are trimming the fat in the right way.
Yeah, good point there for sure. So I would really encourage people, if there's a good bill out there, email, call, show up, talk to these committee members, talk to the bill sponsors, especially if they're on the other side of the aisle from you, and let them know that they're doing something you agree with. It's going to give you more credibility when they do something you don't agree with. I think it's important that we talk about good things that they're doing as well. So Senate Bill 21, registration of off-highway vehicles. That's Senator Scott Bright's bill. He'll be joining us at 8:30. So we'll wait to talk a little bit about that. I'm very curious. It's a bill we've talked about previously over the last few weeks, kind of curious about the need for this kind of legislation and what it does exactly. So I'm interested to hear what he's going to say to give us that explanation and kind of the whole details there. But I know here in Colorado, we love our off-highway vehicles. We love our Razors, our Can-Ams, our ATVs, all the fun stuff. So registration of it is not a good thing. So we'll see what he has to say about that. That's Thursday in the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee.
I'm excited. I'm hoping that he can give us some progress on finding another sponsor, particularly in the legislature or in the House, because right now it can't pass beyond second reading. So, uh, really hoping he can get somebody to help advance this thing so we can really get a detailed look at what this bill might provide for Coloradans.
That's what we get on Thursday in that committee. Also on Thursday, a very interesting bill here, January 30th, House Committee Room 107. This is the House Education Committee starting at 1:30. House Bill 1006, School District Solar Garden Lease Term. Now I got to thank Val Leal there, super of my home on X, because she's done an incredible job doing some research and digging on this bill, even talking to Representative Hartsook about why he should not support it. So House Bill 106, I would say, is a bad bill. It would allow a school district to lease district property for any term of years. Current law limits to 10 years the length a school district can lease district property not needed for its purposes. The bill allows a school district to lease district property for any term of years for purposes of a solar field or affordable housing. So I don't know about you, Michael, but I've seen a lot of closed schools across the Denver metro area. These schools are closing. They don't necessarily need to have an open school there, but the school district still owns the property. And under this bill, they could turn it into affordable housing or a solar garden, solar field, right in your suburban community. What do you think about this?
I have a lot of concerns with this one particular. I mean, if there is no reason for a government to just hold on to a property, if you want to, you bring they bring up affordable housing. If we're in a little bit of a crunch, we have a little bit of a housing crisis going on out here where it's extremely expensive to live in certain areas of Colorado, particularly the metro areas. Uh, we need land, we need more homes. Absolutely. But why not let the private market do it? Let the market decide on what's going to be best for Colorado. Uh, we don't need the government coming in using taxpayer dollars to, or using you and my money and your money to um, really try to manufacture what's going to be best for housing costs. I mean, a lot of times when they do these things, they end up raising the costs overall for everybody because they have some special program that they think is going to reduce the cost of housing for other individuals. Also, a field farm, I mean, that's absolutely absurd to just turn a school into a solar field. It's going to look absolutely ridiculous, and it's going to make the city look terrible. So they don't need to be getting into this little shady solar field business where they're trying to rent it out and try to turn these local school districts into little mini enterprises for solar. So um, I'm kind of curious why solar specifically a um, is called out in this bill as well. I mean, it makes you wonder who knows who and why they wanted to push specifically solar.
Well, and on X, Val was doing a great job exposing kind of the agenda behind this because if you search the Secretary of State's website, they have a list of lobbyists. And you can actually look up every bill that goes through the legislature and see who have signed up as lobbyists to support or oppose the bill. And of course, the school district and the teachers' unions are really, really supporting House Bill 106 here, 1006, because they want to create affordable housing for their teachers. The taxpayers have poured so much money, millions of dollars into these schools. Then they want to turn it around, use it as basically free or subsidized housing for these teachers' unions for their schools as kind of an extra little benefit here. That is not the purpose of these schools. That's not why taxpayers have funded them. So it's a little bit of a overreach for sure. It's a manipulation of the school property. And, Anthony Hartsook, as a Republican, should not be sponsoring this bill.
I really appreciate the comment of Rich Guggenheim, the National Legislative Director for Gays Against Groomers. He says he's in the chat says solar farms create urban heat sinks and thus contribute to climate change. I mean, how ironic.
That's a good point. Good point. So, bad bill, House Bill 1006, being heard Thursday in House Committee Room 107, the House Education Committee, definitely a bill you'd want to oppose. If you please reach out to all of these legislators. And folks, we're covering kind of what we thought were some of the more interesting bills of the week, but there are a lot more bills being heard. Also on Thursday in Health and Human Services, 1:30 p.m. in the old Supreme Court, this is the Senate committee, Senate Bill 45, Healthcare Payment System Analysis. Why don't you tell us about this one here, Michael?
Oh, essentially they're trying to create a committee to essentially come up with a new version of universal health care. It wasn't too long ago when we had a bill on the ballot. It was Prop 69, which was not so nice in 2016. It got handily defeated 78% to 21%. 2.1 million voters in Colorado, including the Denver Boulder metro area, said no, this is a terrible idea because they've seen what this does to states time and time and time again when they try to enact universal health care on the state level. It does not work. It absolutely cripples states and makes healthcare worse for anybody, let alone Coloradans. So we cannot let this um, go through. Oh, you're
Definitely, from an economics perspective, from just a common sense perspective, government-run healthcare schemes have been an absolute disaster. These legislators are acting as if they're still in the early 2000s. These schemes have been tried and they have been failing the people there. Colorado does not need a publicly financed, privately delivered universal healthcare payment system. We need to get we need to tell these legislators how wrong they are. And it's so funny looking at the comments here on YouTube, seeing all the all they see the names of who sponsors this legislation, and it seems like everybody probably knows for the worst. A dirty sock says there, and yeah, unfortunately, Mark Millman says 70 plus years of government intervention in our healthcare system has gotten us where we are today. 100%. This scheme is terrible. People really need to oppose Senate Bill 45. This is not something that's the role of government, and an absolute and utter waste of taxpayers' money, time, and resources. This bill would create a healthcare analysis advise collaborative consisting of 20 members invited by the executive director of the Department of Health. It goes on and on and on. Let's just take a quick look at that fiscal note and see how much it's going to cost. So here they go, $300,000 this year, this fiscal year, $100,000 next fiscal year, and it might continue there because they might be getting grants, gifts, and other things for this type of program, of course. So definitely a waste of money, definitely a bad bill. People need to oppose Senate Bill 45. The last bill we want to talk about for the bills of interest this week before we get to our guest is going to be heard Thursday, January 30th, 1:30 p.m., House Committee Room 112, the Business Affairs and Labor Committee. This is House Bill 1001, Enforcement Wage Hour Laws. Concerning the enforcement of wage and hour laws. So, of course, all these do goody legislators. I mean, just look at these names. If you don't know, Monica Duran is the one responsible for you not being able to get a free plastic bag when you go to the grocery store. That is Monica Duran. She also pushed hard Proposition KK to create taxes, more taxes, additional taxes on firearms, on the means of self defense. Monica Duran has been an absolute disaster for working class Coloradans, making life a lot more difficult. Of course, the rest of the list there is no better. But nonetheless, this bill, of course, is going to make it harder for companies to do business here. It's going to be bad for small businesses, and it's going to create these extra burdens and extra threats that governments are going to use to interfere with that employer-employee relationship here. So there's a lot to it, of course. As you can see, the summary goes on and on and on. But what do you think about this one so far, Michael, from what you know?
I think they're going to overstep their bounds. I mean, wage hour enforcement is already so strict, and everybody seems to sue each other over the slightest little things. I mean, I know I've worked for some pretty big companies in the past, and it just turns into an absolute nightmare, and you're constantly dealing with HR. My wife dealt with it. If she opened her computer at the wrong time, they would track that, and then they would consider that a violation of the wage policy, and then she would get written up for it. So there's a lot of craziness that gets enforced on these companies, and it turns into a little bit of a distraction and creates a lot of efficiency issues within companies.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. And you can just see, I mean, how difficult it is. I work for a small business, and the hoops they have to jump through, the regulations they have to deal with. I mean, there's no way that people who are trying to run a business can really understand all of these different little nuances and regulations put on them without help of lawyers, of other people who are going to give them some guidance. Some of these companies out there that help provide guidance for some of these small businesses to navigate Colorado's horrible anti-business laws. And it's so unfortunate because small business is the lifeblood of our economy. Small business is something that all of these Democrat legislators should support, get away from those big corporations. But of course, going after wage hour laws and all these new things. And I mean, if you just look at the penalties, hundreds of thousands of dollars, that could be levied against some of these companies. Here's 10,000, here's 25,000, $50,000. I mean, so much of this stuff can be so arbitrary, and unfortunately, it is just a bad bill. So I would think so. Senate Bill 1001. Love to hear more information about that as we get more further in the session. But unfortunately, this bill is going to be heard this week on Thursday at 1:30 p.m. House Committee Room 112. So yeah, I mean it's crazy. There's so many bills that there are going through that all the attention of the public is on the egg bill or the gun bill or some of these other big bills, but there's all this other little stuff here that's like death by a thousand cuts, death by a thousand regulations. It's absolutely outrageous.
Mike Dickerson has a great point in the chat. He says laws like this will stifle growth. If my company expands, everyone will be a 1099 employee. And that's exactly what you're going to be seeing more and more as these Democrats pass these heavy-handed regulations on businesses. I remember back in the day when they were discussing Obamacare and they created new terms like the 49ers and the 99ers. I mean, you think of the 49ers as a football team, but what it is a deviation between companies that have 49 employees versus 50 employees because they get treated entirely different. You want to it basically stifles growth to the point where these companies are kind of exploding at the seams because they can't they need to grow, but they can't afford to grow because of the regulations. Same thing with the 99ers. They added additional requirements that were very cost prohibitive. So I'm looking forward to I'm hoping that that's 1001, correct?
Yes.
I hope 1001 gets knocked out in committee.
I'd love to see it. And so we got Monday, biggest bill of the week on Monday is House Bill 1074, change confinement standards for laying hens. And we have the bill sponsor joining us here. We have Representative Ryan Gonzalez. Ryan, how are you today, sir? And it looks like you're muted as well.
All right, good evening. Good evening. How are you guys? Happy Sunday. Good to be with you guys. Doing just fine. Just had dinner, so can't complain.
Awesome. Hope you didn't have to have any expensive eggs in your meal.
No, but close to it. Beef.
Oh,
Beef.
awesome. Wonderful. Another target of so many of these anti-agricultural legislators. But Representative Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Really look forward to talking with you. Really appreciate you running House Bill 1074. And I don't know if you've met Michael Vance before. Michael Vance is the legislative director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado.
Hey Ryan,
I
good
believe
to meet you.
have.
Actually,
Yeah.
yes, I think it was
Good to
at
see you again.
you too. You too. Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, tell us a little bit about your bill there, Representative Gonzalez.
Yeah, so this bill is one of the bills that I've worked with people across party lines, libertarians, third parties, Republicans, finding ways of what we can do to deliver immediate relief to the people of Colorado. And what's interesting is even before we brought this bill forward, um, it's interesting because no one really thought that eggs would be talked about, not just in the media, but it's talked about in conversations from people at home, at the store, restaurants, schools, everything that basically is made with eggs. They're talking about the prices of eggs, right? And there's this big push that it's the bird flu, the bird flu, the bird flu. And that's only part of the problem. Now, across the country, the bird flu is everywhere. It doesn't just disappear when you leave Colorado. So if you look at states that have these policies and those that don't, you will see that there's a higher increase, there's a higher price tag basically on eggs in the states that do have these type of cage-free eggs policies in place. And if you look at it, it's not necessarily cage-free per se, but I think for us, this is just basically something for us to provide affordability. It's the number one talked issue. Though I heard about it from the voters in my district, going door to door, the conversations I had with them, affordability. And of all things, eggs now are basically now within reach, far from reach of low income people, children. It's a big part of people's meals. So I think this is a perfect bill that's reasonable and doesn't ask for much, and it gives us back consumer choice.
Now, Ryan, I think it's a great point. You brought up the struggling families. My wife, I mean, we're not in a great position by any means. My wife went to the store today and she paid $10.47 for a dozen eggs at Walmart. It was just Walmart. It's not Natural Grocers, Safeway, Whole Foods, which you can call whole paycheck. Um, Now, my question is, with the price of $10 eggs in Colorado, who would be opposed to this bill? I mean, I from what I can tell, this bill is going to deregulate the market so small farmers can actually will actually be able to raise chickens again, because the cost of going cage free versus being able to raise your chickens as is with the cage in your existing facilities is going to be drastically different. You're not going to have chickens basically kind of cooped up one on one because, all of a sudden they have a little bit of room to run, so they flock together and then they cough on each other, and then allowing for the additional increase in the spread of sicknesses. So my question becomes, who's actually opposing this bill? What are the reasons for opposing a bill like this?
Yeah, sure. So great question. You have the media that's opposed to it, number one. You have the largest egg producers who are opposed to it. In fact, it was the largest egg producers who pushed for this bill because they were afraid of a national group getting involved. I think it was like an animal rights group who were threatening to put something on the ballot of Colorado that would be much worse. My understanding is this was a way to alleviate it because they did not have the money to fight it. However, money isn't everything, right? But still, you need resources to combat, ballot initiatives. So they put forward this bill. The egg producers, the largest ones, are against it because, again, they talk about the bird flu. They say that it's not the law, it is the bird flu. And you also have animal rights activists who are, however well intentioned this law, HB 2013-43, was originally meant to be, it still has negative ramifications and obviously overall effects that we're seeing today. Now, they are also saying that the market was transitioning towards cage free. If it's transitioning towards that direction, why do you need a law to make it so? Why do you have to force it upon everybody? And if it's about, it's more about chicken rights than animal rights, chicken welfare over animal welfare. If it was really about chicken welfare, why did they exempt smaller egg farms from it instead of making it universal across the board? Right. So, I mean, they're well intentioned, but the animal rights activist people are against my bill. And the biggest egg producers are against my bill, but everybody else, and also the media, everybody else can see the impacts of that policy today. These people who are against my bill say, well, we've been phasing it in over the last few years, but it's been fully implemented at the beginning of this year. And now we're seeing a lot of supply chain constraints and shortages and taking away of consumer choice. So you're just seeing it pretty much now unfolding more so today than you have in the past.
Yeah, definitely. These kind of laws, they lead to scarcity. It's like the two bad things happen at once. This law gets implemented here January 1, 2025, and the bird flu is going on at the same time. Well, Colorado's in a much more fragile position. We're much more restricted in our ability to buy eggs because of these two things coming together. So it's making us less stable in terms of our food market and really causing some serious issues. So Representative Gonzalez, your bill is going to be heard tomorrow. That's Monday here, January 27th at 1:30 p.m. in the Agriculture, Water, and Natural Resources Committee. It's down in House Committee Room 107 at the state capitol. People can also do remote testimony. But what would you say to people who might be thinking about testifying in support of your bill?
What was that last part? You kind of cut out there.
Said, what would you say to people who are interested in supporting your bill, who are maybe going to be going down to the state
Yeah.
capitol or providing remote testimony? What would you say to?
So I think for me, it's about making sure that you tell your stories. Let these legislators know the impact of this law. I think they need to hear from low income people, middle class people, because look, the truth is a lot of these policies, rich people, the ultra rich, whatever they want to say, they don't care. They have the money for the useless, whether it's the eggs, whether it's the fees, burdensome regulation, they can handle it because they have the money. Middle class and especially the lower income people can't. Children who are basically, parents are struggling to get by. They're choosing between filling up their gas tank or putting food on the table. And these legislators need to know the impact that it's having in their specific lives because they're our constituents. They are the people that we work for. They are the people we have to listen to. But, if it's one thing I know is people need to share their stories, how it's impacted their lives. My job is to present the facts and kind of the research that we've been doing, and everybody else needs to basically present their stories of how they've been hurt and impacted and harmed by that policy. Because, like I said, however well intentioned it may be, it originally was meant to be, it still has negative consequences. And that's something that these legislators need to understand. And mind you, Democrats control, they're in the majority, okay? Some of these in the Agriculture Committee are in competitive swing districts. They have to listen to this. And if this is something that they choose to ignore, then I think it's something that we need to hold these people accountable in the midterms.
You bring up a good point, Rep Gonzalez. When it comes to personal testimony, personal stories, what are you hearing from people about this egg bill? I mean, it's not like a box of ho-hos where you can go without it and you'd probably be better off. Eggs are a staple meal. Poultry is a staple part of our diets in America. We can't go. You cannot really go without eggs. And live a healthy lifestyle long term. So, what are you hearing? What are you really hearing from your constituents?
I hear all the time, especially since I assumed office, why am I not able to afford groceries for myself anymore? Why is the prices continuing to go up? Why is it become, excuse me, why is it becoming less and less likely for me to buy eggs? Of all things, eggs. When you can go to a fast food restaurant and buy it for, $3 less. And that's just only like a one-time meal, at a fast food restaurant. But eggs, obviously, you can keep them in your refrigerator. You can use them for multiple things, and people rely on that. Like you said, it's a high source of protein. I think it has 6 grams of protein per egg, and children depend on it, especially, right? When it comes to breakfast, as you know, is a very important meal of the day. They're concerned about that. They're concerned about just food in general, and eggs obviously are a big part of that. So they can't afford it. I'm hearing people are stressed out, senior citizens who are barely making it by on fixed income, and now they're having to struggle just buying eggs. These are the stories I hear about, and it's all has the common theme like, why can't I afford eggs anymore? And people are just shocked that it's $10 and sometimes even $20 for, I don't know, like I think half a dozen or like 18 eggs, I think, or something like that. So you're basically getting to where it's almost $1 per egg. And it's just like it shouldn't even be like that. People are hurting, they want relief, it's becoming too expensive, and they're concerned about that.
Oh, definitely. And we got a question in the chat here. Mark Milliman says, Ryan, Representative Gonzalez, I believe the legislative analysis said this is when the bill was passed back in 2020, said that egg prices would only increase 25 cents per dozen. Obviously, it has increased more. Do you have any price comparisons from nearby states?
So I do. I don't have it with on me, like exactly on me, but I have it somewhere in a Google file that I'm happy to send to you guys. And you guys can also just kind of make that public and post it. Or I can post it myself because I'm actually going to use that for my presentation tomorrow. And some media outlets have also requested that data that we sent over to them as well. I think Colorado Politics asked for that too.
What are you hearing from I guess my next question is, what are you hearing from a lot of your colleagues about this bill? I mean, have you been hearing any rumblings of support you necessarily wouldn't have expected it from? And are you getting any pushback you might not have expected it from as well?
So huh, I have gotten pretty much unanimous Republican support in both the state house and the state senate. There have been some Democrats who are open to the message. They haven't put the name on the bill yet. They have said that if it makes it to the floor and they hear the more debate and discussions, they would reevaluate then if they wanted to co-sponsor that bill. But I have, and I actually just sent it to Brandon. I got maybe one email about opposing my bill. The other emails I have had from across the state are basically in supportive of it. So I haven't had much pushback, at least publicly, on my bill. There's more support, I feel, than there is opposition to it. And again, I think the only people opposed to it are like the media, those staunch, far left Democrats, the animal rights activists, and people who are believing that it's the bird flu. Like they see no reason to not think of that. And so they see the bird flu as the only issue with the prices of eggs. And even small egg producers are in favor of it. They can't afford the cage-free infrastructure, the resources, the money, right? And that only drives costs up. And so they want to stay in business, and we should give people the choice. And I think that's the big thing we need to highlight is choice in cage-free versus not, because then that'll also help. And people understand this for the most part. If we're able to import more in Colorado that's not cage-free, we'll have a higher supply, which also drives prices down. So we're not basically dealing with the shortage of eggs, scarcity, all that stuff. So I think there is more support than there is opposition. We'll just have to see when it comes to testifying. But I think those are the groups that were for and against it.
Uh,
Interesting, very interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, one thing I want to say is I find an interesting comment. Hannah Goodman, chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. Hey, Hannah. She says Nebraska is $21.95 for 60 eggs and no food tax. It's just absolutely remarkable how much cheaper it is for eggs in Nebraska. Granted, I mean 5 dozen, you're going to be able to get a little bit of a deal on volume, but still, that's basically what, $4 a dozen? Absolutely insane. My wife just paid again 10.50 essentially. It's wild for 12.
Wow, that is wild. Absolutely. Well, Representative Gonzalez, I think one of the other big stories with your egg bill here is that, this is part of the deal you made, I guess, for lack of a better word, or kind of that collaboration with the Libertarian Party of Colorado. And it definitely set the stage for a big win this November and kind of made some national headlines too with this idea of Republicans working with libertarians. And, we saw it play out on the presidential stage too, so you did it before Trump did. But this idea that, we have a unified liberty community here in Colorado that's going to put party differences aside to get good pro-liberty legislators like yourself elected and not get in each other's way. Because I mean, I see you on X and your posts are awesome. You say you want to be the next Thomas Massey of Colorado. You're not shy about using all the pro-liberty talking points, and I love to see it. So I think the Libertarian Party and Libertarian voters made a really good decision to support your candidacy for office this year because it's definitely paying off. I mean, you're probably one of the more pro-liberty legislators we've seen in recent times. So just at least wanted to bring that up, and I'd love to get some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm sure you've seen the story Colorado Times Recorder wanting to call it a secret deal, right? There was nothing secret about the deal. It wasn't a pledge. It was me. And honestly, the story, because it broke out a few days ago. And Hannah actually, I reached out to Hannah because they wanted to get her point on that. But they were there at your guys' convention in March, and they watched my video, so there was nothing secret about it, and they didn't say anything until now. So, I mean, they're very progressive. It is what it is. But for me, I think it basically shows that I'm a person of my word. I'm going to honor my commitments and promises because I'm not going to make promises I can't keep. I'm not going to, be over realistic or, set the standard very impossibly high. I know what I can do within my parameters, being in the minority, stuff that's reasonable, sensible, practical. And like you said, we have to work together to start defeating some of these Democrats. Now, there's pushback because, they will argue, well, Democrats are so powerful that it takes libertarians and Republicans to work together to get rid of them. But I think they're missing the point. I think when we talk on principle, unlimited government, free markets, fiscally responsible spending, because Republicans have shied away from it, not only at the state level, but at the national level. They always talk about shrinking government, they always talk about cutting taxes, they always talk about cutting spending, and they never do it. They never do it. Now, we're in a unique position here in Colorado with a budget deficit about 650, $70 million where we have to make these cuts. And we're seeing a lot of these implications from COVID now, just 5 years later, starting to affect our budget. And this is a chance for us to prove ourselves and work across party lines, stand on principles, and just work with each other. Because I think our policies transcend party lines. We want to help the people of Colorado. Libertarians want to do that. Republicans want to do that. Democrats want to do that, but their policies just don't work. And so we have to prove that we're the better people to present more practical policies that actually meet what we want to do when it comes to affordability. So I'm all for it. I'm all about it. I've enjoyed working for you guys, working with you guys, not for you, working with you guys. And it's just been great. Just getting to know you guys, getting to know what your guys' thoughts are, working together, giving you guys a seat at the table, and also helping me shape policy, when it comes to some of these tough votes, tough decisions, because I have to represent my district. I'm in a very competitive district. It's more moderate, but it's also, I feel like it's more libertarian based too. I don't know if you got that feeling too when you guys were knocking on doors in my district. They're more libertarian than they are conservative or liberal. So, I feel like I can definitely represent my constituents well. In
Absolutely. People just want to live their lives and they want to be left alone, really. I mean, everybody's unique, everybody's a little different. There's no individual that's exactly like somebody else. I mean, we are just people at the end of the day, and nobody is going to be able to tell somebody else how to live, particularly with, the threat of the gun behind them. I mean, it's absolutely absurd to me to see how much people want to control everybody these days. So I really appreciate what you've done, what you've been doing. I mean, it's also kind of funny that you bring up the convention, because if you really wanted to, all you have to do is go to the LP Colorado YouTube channel and you can go watch our convention, and anybody can go see exactly what you said on the screen to all of us that were there that day. It was, and you had a fantastic video. So it was great that we were able to not necessarily do a pledge, but we did a deal. And to me, everything you've done is just as good as what we intended to do with a pledge. So we're incredibly grateful for everything you've done with us. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing the future. And I mean, so far you're on that, we as far as we're concerned, you are on that path to being Colorado's Thomas Massey, and we're excited for it.
No, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. It's like I said, we're in the minority, so we have to start bringing balance back to our state. And this is how it starts, by working together, standing on principles. We can disagree on policies, but when we talk about principles, that's what brings people together. And we won't always agree, right? But I've never
Mhm.
met two people that agree on everything. And so, like you said, it's practically impossible to agree with everything, right? And that's why we're also Republicans, libertarians, because we're independent thinkers. And so we're not afraid to voice our opinions. We don't like being told what to do. We don't like being controlled. We believe government should basically work within its means, not outside of its means. Because the way I see it, I want to properly manage government. Democrats want to properly manage people. And that's where they overstep their boundaries because they don't trust people to make their own decisions carefully, safely, right? In the name of collectivism. And so that's why you see these agencies and regulations and rules and growing of government because they don't trust people to make the decisions and to self govern. And so that is a problem because if you don't trust your people, what does that say about you you're supposed to represent them? Because as an elected official, it's not my seat. I represent the people. It's the people of House District 50. That's their seat. I just am there to work for them. They are my bosses. They are the ones I have to answer to. I don't answer to my leadership. I don't answer to the other people. I don't answer to the lobbyists. I have to go back and explain myself in 2026 when I'm knocking on doors and justifying my vote and why I deserve a second term. And that's why I want to make sure I set the stage to vote accordingly with my district, but also make sure that I represent a new type of politician that really understands the problems in the state and in government, that's why we're getting involved. Because like you, like many of you, I'm just sick of all the BS. We're tired of it. We've had enough. And I think it's time for us to go in a different direction that produces positive and meaningful change.
Awesome. Well, very well said, sir. I know you got a busy day tomorrow, so we'll let you go here, but want to thank you so much. Really look forward to hearing about some of your other legislation that's coming out this year. So please keep us updated. Anytime you want to come back, please let us know. But just appreciate all the work you're doing, and we'll see you down there tomorrow at the state capitol. I know many of us will be down there in support of House Bill 1074 to repeal this ridiculous cage-free egg mandate or law, and look forward to seeing you then.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. And I will be on your guys' channel from time to time. So you guys need anything from me, I have my website on the government page. So email me, call me, give me your thoughts, stop by my office. My door is always open. So absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you for everything, Ryan. We really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
No, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night, and I will see some of you tomorrow. I will be the first one to do the opening at 1:30, but I have finance committee right after because it actually starts at 1:30. So as soon as I'm done with my testimony, I have to leave out that door to go to my finance committee. So I'm not evading anybody. I'm not avoiding. I just got to go. We're voting on some bills for the finance. There's some tax credit stuff going on there, so we're getting some hearings on that stuff. So I will see you guys later.
All right. Take care, sir. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Good night.
Awesome. Well, that was great. I mean, yeah, Representative Gonzalez is definitely a new breed of politician, a new breed of Republican. Hopefully, we see more of these pro-liberty legislators, people who are willing to work with libertarians and others to fight for working class families, fight for affordability, fight to keep the government out of our lives. What do you think about all that, Michael?
I thought it was fantastic. It was great to hear from him, hear him really kind of get into the details of a lot of his bill. He, I think, if to me personally, he knocked it out of the park. I'm excited to see how everything transpires tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a great committee hearing. Really excited to see that. And we have our next guest joining us here. We have newly elected State Senator Scott Bright. Senator Bright, how are you, sir?
Really good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Very, very well. This is, I don't know if you've met Michael Vance. He's the legislative director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. And this is newly elected Senator Scott Bright.
Great to meet you, sir.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Vance. Mr. Vance.
So, Senator, what do you think so far? I mean, this is your first term down there serving at the state capitol. I'm sure you had some preconceived notions. You had some ideas of what it was going to be like. Is there anything that surprised you? Anything that you think is interesting, or what do the people need to know?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting for sure. I guess I have to say that the process, the procedure of being in the legislature is kind of a new experience. And so not having that experience before, I've had to learn really fast on what the rules are, when to talk, when not to talk, when it's really important to listen, when it doesn't matter to listen. So just learning the rules of the game has been the most uh, challenging part for me, but I'm studying and learning, picking it up really fast.
Now, Senator Bright, can you fill us in on what you've been doing before you were elected to your current position?
Yeah, so I'm a business owner first and foremost, and I own a business in the childcare arena. So a few childcare centers in Weld County, Greeley, Evans, Windsor, Alt, and several after-school programs in district elementary schools as well as charter elementary schools. So that's what I do. That's my where I make a living. It's been a family business for a long, long time, and I've been worked in that my entire career. So that's what I do, and that's kind of what brought me to the state legislature is trying to advocate on behalf of business owners who struggle under the heavy regulatory load in Colorado, as well as championing high quality options for families when it comes to preschool for their kids. So it's just amazing the folks down there that think that they're doing the right thing by parents and families, and they're headed in totally the wrong direction. So what I try to do is keep that in check and remind them that rules and regulations are not the best way to create the highest number of options for families. Opening that up will create more options, not clamping down on it. So,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So many of these government regulations, they just restrict what these businesses can do, especially small businesses. The burden is so high. You have to run a business. And then also, it's like running a second business where you have to just deal with all the regulations, compliance, taxes, all the nuances, and all the new laws they passed every year. It's a wonder that small businesses can survive at all in Colorado.
yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, if you go to any group of people in any room and you say, do you think childcare is about priced right, or do you think it's too expensive? Everybody in the room will always say that childcare is too expensive. But then they will also vote for legislators who come in and just lay more and more and more regulations on the industry, which just drives the price up. So, I mean, my message to folks out there is like, quit voting for folks to occupy the legislature that continue to clamp down on more restrictions on these businesses. That's what drives the price up. I mean, you look in a parallel world where the Senate Republicans are running 4 different bills to reduce fees on the average Colorado by $4,500 a year. That's our goal. We've outlined a long list of things that we can repeal that will save the average Coloradoan $4,500 a year. And so, I mean, what would you do with 4,500 extra dollars this year or last year or next year? Yet we have these folks down in the legislature who think that it's their job to continue to just add more and more and more. So we're here to repeal on behalf of the Colorado taxpayers, and we want to see that happen. And we'll actually make a pretty incredible impression when it comes to watching the Democrats vote that down. It will be something to watch. It'll make the news for sure.
Great. Looking forward to that for sure. So one of the bills we're talking about this week, Senator Bright. So on our live streams every week, we go through and we talk some of the important bills of the week, encouraging people across Colorado to get involved with the legislative process. Committee hearings are where we can have the biggest impact. Show up and talk to the legislators, be 10 feet away from them, tell them how right they are, how wrong they are. And it's incredibly empowering and so important for people to get involved. And especially with how easy remote testimony is, people can chime in from all across the state. And it's such an important thing. So every week we talk about some of these big bills of the week. And your bill, Senate Bill 21, was on our list. It's this registration of off-highway vehicles. Can you tell us a little bit about this bill? I know a lot of us love the Colorado lifestyle of go get our Can-Am or our Razor and head out to the hills and get out there. I got a Jeep. So, we love this off-road lifestyle and off-grid lifestyle and camping lifestyle we have here in Colorado. But what is your bill, Senate 21? What's the purpose of this bill?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So I live in the same world: motorcycles, ATVs, side by sides, snowmobiles. I love to experience Colorado out of doors on public lands on motorized vehicles. I work very extensively. I'm also chair of the board of the Colorado Trails Preservation Alliance, where we work very hard to make sure that those motorized opportunities continue to exist for folks in Colorado. I don't know if you know this, but of all the trails that exist in Colorado, 8% of them are open to motorized use. 92% of the trails in Colorado are not open to motorized use. So I am trying as hard as I can to protect that 8%. And if by some strange act of God work that I can do to maybe increase it to 9%, wouldn't that be cool? The motorized community hasn't seen an increase in available riding opportunities in the last 30 years, probably 35, pushing maybe 40 years. And so my goal here is to use my spot in the state legislature to maybe start to inch that back up and increase some motorized opportunities for folks like you and me that love to experience the outdoors on a motorized legal trail. So Senate Bill 21 just makes it easier for the motorized user to get that registration that they need to operate on public lands. So if you've ever tried to go through the Colorado Parks and Wildlife OHV registration process. It's pretty onerous. It's kind of a pain in the butt to go through. Of all the requirements that you have to do, one of them is to prove that you actually own the vehicle that you're riding. And I don't know about you guys, but that's kind of a pain in the butt for me. I'm either hauling title work, or I'm hauling bill of sales, or I'm hauling my actual ATVs or motorcycles, whatever, over to the state parks office, and I'm having them verify that I own all this stuff just so that I can buy that $25 sticker to be legal. What I'm doing, what I'm proposing in this bill, is to remove the proof of ownership piece. If I have a vehicle and I want to register it so I can use it on public lands, I probably own it. I'm not going to go steal something, and with that sort of intent, then I'll try to be compliant later on down the road to buy a $25 sticker so I can go ride it legally on public lands. Like, that's not what a thief does. And so I'm trying to remove that onerous process of proof of ownership from the process of being able to get that sticker. What I think it will do is I think it will potentially even double the funds that are generated, because people who want to be compliant with the law, and yet find it onerous to go through this process, this gives them a way to go ahead and do it. Just jump on the CPW website, register your vehicle, get a sticker, and go do your thing, right? So those funds, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but those funds go specifically to maintain motorized trails in Colorado. Every year, that fund generates about $5 million, and those funds go straight back into maintaining those trails and making them better for those of us who use them. And no other user group in Colorado has this sort of system. You talk to the mountain bikers, the e-bikers, they don't have a sticker system. They don't have a trail maintenance system. You talk to the equestrian folks on horseback, they don't have this system. You talk to hikers, they don't have a fee-based system. So I feel like as long as this vehicle is there to help offset the use that we have, or the impact that we have on public lands, let's use it, let's maximize it, and let's put those dollars onto the ground to offset the use that we have. I mean, it's only responsible. And so my goal is not to force anybody to do anything. My goal is to open up the process so that it just makes it easier for folks to be compliant.
Senator
Hopefully
Brett.
Yes.
Oh, go for it.
No. Hopefully that clears up, some questions on that bill.
No, I think it really does help bring a lot of clarity to what you're proposing. I'm kind of curious. I asked this to Senator, Rep. Gonzalez a little bit ago. I'll ask the same thing to you. I'm kind of curious. Is there anybody that you didn't expect to support your bill? And is there anybody that you didn't necessarily expect to oppose your bill?
Yeah. So this is a frustration of a freshman legislator, and I'm just being totally transparent here. The other returning legislators have had a year or more to think about their bill idea and to try to work with bill drafters at the Capitol, and really work through and stakeholder the bill and do all these things. I got elected on November 5, right? And I had to turn all 5 of my bills in by December 3, like less than a month. And to be honest with you, I was so focused on my campaign, I didn't have a ton of bill ideas. And so I was kind of waiting for some guidance, for some folks to lead me through the process, tell me how it works. And you got Thanksgiving in there, a week off where nobody's working. And you come up to December 3, and, you get a little bit of an extension on that. And honestly, I had no help walking into this. And some of my early childhood objectives, which is my primary concern here, were actually snapped up by other legislators, and I'm really glad to see those things kind of start pushing through. But it was put together in a bit of a rush, and if I had a chance to stakeholder it better, I definitely would have. It's just a matter of calendar days, and I didn't expect some of the pushback that I've gotten. So one of the entities that has pushed back on it is the Colorado Power Sports Dealer Network. So that's a group of a handful of motorcycle ATV dealers in Colorado. They're like, hey, we don't understand this bill. You're trying to make it hard on us. And I'm like, hold on a second, guys. I'm trying to make it easier on you and everybody else and generate more funds to open up more trails so that you guys can sell more units, and this can be an easier process, not a harder one. So I feel like it was more of a misunderstanding than it was any sort of an intentional blockage or whatever. So I'm going to give them a pass on that. But yeah, they came out and said, yeah, we're not sure. So since we're not sure, we're going to oppose it. And I'm like, wow, I'm trying to make your life easier and you're opposing my effort. Okay, whatever it takes. Um, so anyway, who's come out for it? It's amazing the folks that even on the other side of the aisle are like, yeah, those motorized guys need to have a chance to, put some funds on the trail to try to help offset maybe some of the damage that they do out there. I totally get that, and I think that's cool. So I expected it to be pretty bipartisan, and it has come over fairly well. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, Senator Bright, you talked about early childhood education and different opportunities for families as kind of being one of your priorities when you're running for office and getting elected. What are, even if you're not sponsoring the bills, is there anything that we should be paying attention to that you're seeing come out this year through this legislative session that maybe we should be trying to support or oppose, or anything on the education side that is at the top of your mind right now?
Absolutely. There's a few bills out there. One of them's a House bill, one's a Senate bill. I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but the Senate bill for sure tries to put a cap on the registration fees that childcare centers are able to charge parents. And I can tell you that if you ask, again, a room full of 100 people, you say, are childcare workers overpaid or are they underpaid for the work that they do? Everybody would say childcare workers are underpaid. Well, my registration fees that go through my centers go directly back to my staff. And so when these legislators try to cap registration fees, all they're doing is taking money out of the pockets of childcare workers and taking food off the tables of those folks that work in childcare centers. And so while they may be upset that the registration fee or whatever is a little bit higher than what they wanted to pay, like this is how we make it affordable for folks to work in this industry. And you want to take money right out of their pockets, drives me crazy. So, I mean, there's a couple other bills out there, but I can tell you that anytime a bill comes in and tries to pour another regulation or another restriction on childcare, it's just going to get more expensive. Okay. And so I will always oppose a bill that makes childcare more expensive for Colorado families. I always will.
Nice. Just a quick follow up to that. Yeah, it seems like it's like the price gouging bill they're pushing too, where they say, hey, we don't want prices too high. We need to cap it. Well, it just leads to shortages because
Yeah.
then maybe the business can't operate. Hey, if we can't charge what we need to pay our employees to keep the lights on, then how do you expect us to even operate? I mean, it's these legislators, these politicians think they can just wave their magic wand and decide how much everything should cost. But the reality is the world doesn't work that way. All they're doing is
I
putting
mean,
businesses out of work. Yeah.
it's 100% true. And the folks that are running these bills, I have worked with year over year over year on other child care legislation. And so, uh, and so as I have worked with them, they know that I'm a child care center owner. They know I'm a new legislator. None of them reached out to me for stakeholdering and said, hey, fellow legislator, what do you think about this bill idea? None of them did that. They just ran it anyway, and they're just going to try to shove it down the throats of Coloradoans who are struggling to pay for childcare. It's nuts.
Definitely nuts.
Senator Brett, I've got one quick question. I want to go back to Senate Bill 21 really quickly. Have you had any progress on finding another sponsor in the House for the bill?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do actually. Carlos Barone, Rep. Carlos Barone, is signed on for it. Again, I'm learning the process, understanding how this stuff works. I had to have my bill in so quickly, I couldn't shop it around to get co-sponsors. I was so busy trying to go to orientation and figure out how this whole process works and get, become a new state employee and figure out where I'm going to live and just do all these things. I didn't have time to shop for sponsors and understand the process now, but didn't know understand the process then about how the sponsored program works. So yes, I have folks lined up ready to attach their name to it as soon as it gets introduced for second and third reading. But that initial introduction, I didn't have that work done, but I got it done in the days following.
That's excellent news.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What, Senator Bright, any other priorities? I know you talked about education. Obviously, it's great that with your experience with the trails and the outdoors aspect of it, but what are some of your other bills we could look forward to this year?
Yeah, so got a few of them coming up, and like I mentioned, I'm one of 4 Republican senators that are introducing bills to save folks money on fees. Um, Mine is transportation related fees, so like gas fees, fees at the pump, fees for returning used tires, um, all sorts of fees that are related to transportation. And I'm working with the Senate Republicans on that one to get that introduced through and sort out all the details as we come through that. Another one that I'm working on is actually with the Department of Natural Resources. I found some great friends over there. They needed some help with trafficking of endangered species across state lines. Um, so what's happening is there are several different types of animals that, for whatever reason, are in high demand for the spiritual medicinal world that I never really knew existed. But like for instance, turtle shells and bear gallbladders and certain types of birds. These things, for whatever reason, are in high demand outside of Colorado. And so folks will come in and harvest those animals just for those purposes and then transport them across state lines to go do whatever. It's already illegal to do that, but it seems that the penalties aren't dissuading folks from making that decision. Like for instance, the penalty on a turtle shell is $1,000, but you can get $70,000 on the open market for this particular turtle shell. And so guys, criminals will harvest them and pay the fine over and over and over again because they can still make a ton of money off doing it, right? So what we're trying to do is like further dissuade those sorts of things, and not just for the average animal that is in plenty in Colorado, but for endangered species specifically. So that's on its way. Also, let's see, also working on a bill to help small businesses with different sorts of benefits that are mandated by the state of Colorado, kind of give them some breathing room on how to implement those things. I mean, it seems like all these businesses out here were handling employment issues just fine. And then the state of Colorado legislators decide to step in and say, we know how to run your business better than you do. So we're going to create all these rules and all these things that are going to cost you a lot of time and money to implement. And so my idea is to try to push back on some of those things and give a little bit of breathing room to small businesses. So yeah, that's what you'll see.
Awesome.
You know, I think that's pretty interesting that you're trying to find new ways to help these small businesses out. Because I mean, earlier we are talking about small businesses being the lifeblood of Colorado, really. Uh, what are some ways that you're able? Have you been able to identify anything that can kind of that would potentially cross party lines that would allow us to that would allow us to really kind of penetrate that regulation barrier that the Democrats have really kind of created in the last 20 years?
Yeah. Well, it's how you approach it. And I think, possibly folks who have the right intention of becoming business friendly, I guess, um, need to maybe rephrase that to become, say, employee friendly. Uh, for instance, in the childcare world, as the regulations come rolling in, I can approach that as an employer and say, hey, I am the big bad employer and I want to reduce my costs. Well, you're not going to find a whole lot of friends on the other side of the aisle if you say it like that. But if you say it like, I want to be able to provide more resources, more funding, more wages, more benefits for my employees, and I can only do that if we repeal some of these pieces of regulation that exist, these statutes that exist. You're going to get more success from the other side if you just phrase it in a different way. So I think that, our side of the fence has probably not done a great job of phrasing that, and I feel like it could be done better. So I'm going to try to polish the message a lot better, and bring in testimony from employees that can say, "Hey, if my employer got this break, that would filter to me, because since my employer is so hampered by all the regulations and fees, like they can't afford to pay me any more than minimum wage. I'd sure like to make more than minimum wage. If you guys would back off a little bit, my employer could do that." So that's the sort of angle that we're going for.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm really excited to see all of these measures put forward by Senate Republicans to reduce costs, to eliminate some of these fees, to just provide some relief for struggling families across Colorado because it's so needed. But kind of a final question for you, Senator Bright. I know you're only a couple weeks 4 weeks in now, but what have you seen in terms of influence? You just talked. I thought what you said was really just compelling about how using the right kind of language, the right kind of words, making the right kind of statements can have an impact. But for people out in the community, they believe in liberty and freedom. They want to support they want some relief for their small business. They want to lower the taxes. What's your advice to people out here that want to use their voice to have some influence over what's going on in the state legislature?
Yeah. Um, and I was just talking about this over the last couple 3 days with some folks about some stuff I just learned, some methods, some tactics I've just learned over the course of even just the last week. And that is, I have found that testimony is important. Testimony drives home that this is what the constituents, the taxpayers are experiencing. So we need that testimony to try to drive that point home. But as I'm finding out, a lot of these legislators have made their decision before it comes time for a committee hearing or before that testimony. So the most effective way for a citizen, taxpayer, constituent in Colorado to have an effect on legislation is to contact their legislator 2 weeks prior to the committee meeting. And it's really important timeline, because once you get inside of that 2 weeks, the legislator's probably made up his mind which way he's going to go. And so you want to talk to your legislator. The other really important piece is these committee meetings are made up of an odd number of legislators, 5, 7, 9. Okay. And because the Democrats have the advantage on the floor already, they will load the majority in the committee to them. So you're going to have a 4-3 in a 7. You're going to have a 5-4 in a 9. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we just always lose 5-4? No. What that means is there are some soft Democrats out there who we can pull over with common sense. And so the message here is, you don't go after all 100 legislators, and you just don't go after just the 9 that are on the committee. You go after the 3 that are in the middle, and you work them really hard, and you can pull 1 or 2 of them over to your side and get that bill killed in committee if it needs to be killed, or get it passed in committee if it needs to pass. So the message here is, focus your efforts to the 1 or 2 or 3 folks who are in the middle, and I can help identify who those folks are. And then secondly, really work hard on getting that done approximately 2 weeks prior to the committee hearing on the bill that you're concerned about. So when it comes down to strategy, that's the strategy that's going to pay off. When we carpet email 100 legislators on a gun bill, it's not going to happen. You can hammer the 2 Democrats on that committee that's going to hear the bill, and they're the ones who are going to flip and get it killed in committee. That's where the effort needs to be placed.
So that's fantastic information. I really appreciate that advice. I guess my last question is more, and it's related to public testimony, and I really appreciate that you do bring this testimony, that you brought that topic up. Um, when you are personally looking to go into a committee hearing and you're listening to public testimony, what are the key things that you're looking for hearing about from your constituents, particularly people that are getting ready to testify during these hearings?
Yeah, exactly. So Had a committee meeting last week, and I sat in on business, labor, and technology for a couple senators that had to be out on Tuesday. It was a great experience. I walked in knowing that the Dems were going to win this thing 4-3, because there were 4 of them and 3 of us, and it was a bill on unions versus uh, free market labor, essentially. And so what I was doing, what I really wanted to hear is I wanted to hear personally how this bill would impact someone at their kitchen table. Like, I don't want to know vague concepts of, I've been anti-union since I was 22, or I've been pro-union since I was 18, or whatever. Those things don't hit you hard. What hits a legislator hard in the heart is the personal story of how someone has been affected personally by this bill or will be affected by this bill. That's where it really hits in the heart, is you want to hear that personal testimony. I can tell you that I had a page full of notes of questions that I wanted to ask to the folks that were testifying on my side. And I was listening for keywords and key statements that were going to come up. And if I didn't hear them, then I would go ahead and ask the question that would plant the statement that would come back to the group as a whole, and say, hey, if you vote for this, this is what's going to happen. So I'm thinking ahead, kind of planting those seeds of questions with the folks that are testifying. Hope that helps.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely great advice. Really appreciate it. I mean, that's great strategy, great tactics all around. Those last little bits there were phenomenal stuff. Definitely going to make sure that gets out to a lot of people, because we got a good group of people showing up this year down at the state capitol to testify on bills. And yeah, Senator Bright, really appreciate you taking the time tonight. I know you got a busy week ahead of you, so we'll let you go. But any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to leave us with?
Um, you know, yeah, yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, as we look forward to 26, and I'm playing the long game here. As we look forward to 26, 28, 30, there's going to be a census in 2030. Let's plan to have an advantage in the legislature by 2030 so that we can help make Colorado divided up in a way that makes sense again, because the 2020 election went completely in the Dems' favor, as it got, all the districts got redistricted so that they could be more competitive. Let's play the long game here, and let's try to get back to some sort of a 50-50 basis in the state legislature by then. I think that's there is a path to get that done. As you look at the 10 toss-up Senate races in 26, 9 of them are currently held by Democrats. 1 is held by Republicans. So if you look at that and you go, all right, well, worst case scenario, how many seats can Republicans lose in 26? Well, we can lose 1, worst case. How many could Democrats lose, worst case scenario, in 26? They can lose 9. So what do we need to do to gain back a few more seats in 26, and then also 28, and then also 30? So that we can chart a path to get back to some equilibrium here in the state. I really feel like Coloradoans have a conservative core in their heart, and I really feel that Coloradoans have a common sense that guides their decision making on a daily basis. And I really feel like if we campaign on common sense issues, we can get back to an equilibrium state over the next 3 election cycles. So I really want to see people show up and bring those common sense values to the ballot box.
Great stuff. I love it. I love it. I'm an optimist. I'm hopeful. I know we can right this ship. We're going to have a true free state Colorado someday, but it's going to take playing that long game. So I really appreciate those words there. And there's so much opportunity ahead of us. We can do it. But like you said, we got to show up, get involved, make those connections, and start putting those plans together now. We can't wait till months before the 26th election to say, oh boy, which seats were those competitive ones? We got to know now, have good candidates in place, and make sure they get the right support for sure.
Our opposition, our Democrats, are already announcing their plan, their strategy, who's going to run for what, and we need to put really good people in those seats that can win those general elections. And folks out there will throw resources in those races to make sure that those get flipped. So we need to start that work right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, really appreciate you, Senator Bright. Really look forward to seeing you down at the state capitol and hearing more about your legislation this year. If there's anything that we should be aware of in the future, or you want to jump on a live stream, let us know about a bill, please let us know.
Absolutely, and vice versa. If you see something you want to hear about, I'm happy to come on and testify. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We'll let you go and
All right.
really appreciate you. And yeah, and take care. Have a great week.
Sounds good. Thank you
Thank
guys.
you,
Thanks for
Senator
having me.
Bright.
All right. See ya.
Awesome. Awesome. I love Michael, I love hearing all about the strategy, hearing about the ideas, the conversations about what can be done in the future and kind of making those plans put together now. Really good stuff. I really enjoyed hearing about some of the tactics and strategies for committee hearings, like getting that information out 2 weeks ahead of time, identifying the swing votes. I mean, really valuable information for sure. What did you think?
I thought it was fantastic. That was my first time talking to Senator Bright, and I was very impressed. So, uh, I'm really excited about, as you know, I mean, if you watch previous weeks, we weren't necessarily sure about his bill. Great to hear a clarification on what he's trying to do with that, with Senate Bill 21. And I did not expect to use the last few minutes of that discussion to talk about testifying down at the Capitol. And I thought what he gave us was a few fantastic pointers.
Well, definitely, and great insight too. I think part of it is being fresh set of eyes down there. Kind of freshly. He's testified on bills before, I know, but being really on the other side of it, he can see things from a different perspective, and that was so invaluable. Really appreciate his comments there. But I gotta say, don't go anywhere yet, people. We got more to talk about. There is a lot more to talk about, and we won't take the rest of your night, but definitely some more stuff there. You ready to jump back into it, Michael?
Let's get into it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, this is a great live stream this week. We had some amazing guests, a lot of fun stuff. But every week, so we'll kind of wrap it up here with some of the bills we're tracking. So, first portion of the live stream, we talk about the bills that are being heard this week, because that's where you could testify, that's where you can speak. And we're really trying to encourage people. We want to make it easy for people across Colorado, especially people who believe in liberty and freedom, to use your voice, to get involved, and to have an impact and show up. Show up, like Senator Bright was saying. But we have some bills that are really on our radar that are not necessarily being heard this week, but we want to bring them up. We want to talk to you about some of the bills that we're tracking, maybe some of the worst, some of the best bills. But watching this, Michael, I think there's nobody else doing what we're doing, and people across Colorado who watch this are going to be some of the best informed people in Colorado about what's happening in our state legislature.
Absolutely. And the only way to be informed is to really figure out what is going on bill by bill and following what they're doing down at the Gold Dome. Another thing that you can do possibly is hop on YouTube, go to the Colorado channel. It is a YouTube channel that just basically live streams everything that's happening in the Senate and everything that's happening down in the House. So, that's going to take too long, and that's why. And I don't know how many people who want to do that all day and chase schizophrenia, but we're happy to do that for you.
Awesome. So let's talk about some of the bills we're tracking. We added quite a few to the list this week. We're going to keep people updated about some of the legislation throughout the session. We have until May, usually that second week of May, to really get there, the home stretch there. So these are some of the bills we're talking about. Of course, we talked about House Bill 1074, the egg bill. We won't go back into that, but definitely one of the more important pro-liberty pieces of legislation we're seeing this year. House Bill 1051. Really excited to see this one come through. I really want to do everything possible to support 1051. Of course, I think, Michael, we agree that the whole stupid plastic bag ban is absolutely ridiculous, makes no sense, total waste of time and energy. But at the same time, they're still charging us 10 cents for a recycled paper bag in Colorado. Totally authoritarian, should not be allowed at all. But hey, if they can at least repeal the 10-cent fee on recycled paper bags, we're it would be a win. It would be a win, and we'd be moving in the right direction. As small of a win as it would be, I still want to see it happen. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we need to push for every little fragment of liberty we can retain from the legislature. So I would love to see this one get its fair shake and advance through committee.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated, people. Tune in every week. We're going to tell you the bills that are being heard that week. So we'll tell you when this one comes up. And hey, now though, like Senator Bright said, maybe now's the time. You reach out to your state rep, your state senator, or the people in this committee. We know it's going to the Energy and Environment Committee. Reach out to them now and tell them to support that bill before it gets scheduled in a date. So yeah, 100%. Michael, what do you think about this tax incentive for film festivals bill that we're seeing, House Bill 105 or 1005?
It's just silly. It's people that want to, I believe it's just people that want to feel like they're a part of the elites. They want to bring their little Hollywood friends down and give them a special little break. Now, everybody else, now they still have to pay those same taxes, but the people from Hollywood, they get to come down and get to have their cake and eat it too. So, absolutely ridiculous. They're playing favorites, and it's favorites for friends that you don't want to have.
Well said, well said. Now, House Bill 1010, oh my gosh, it's the most economically illiterate bill I've ever seen, prohibiting price gouging in sales of necessities. So, these representatives, these senators think that they can control the price of goods. They believe this phony narrative that these grocery stores are ripping people off. The reality is healthy competition reduces prices. Profit margins are pretty slim in the grocery stores. So this whole price gouging scheme, all it would do is create shortages and make it so that these producers cannot provide to the consumers who want the goods. So think of it this way. There's a quote unquote Jared Polis declares a bird flu emergency, state of emergency over the bird flu. Does that mean then, if this bill passed, that these grocery stores would not be able to raise the price on eggs? So what would they do? If you're being forced to sell eggs at a lower cost where you're losing money, they're not going to sell the eggs. They're not going to sell anything they're losing money on. You don't do that. That makes no sense at all. So guess what? You're just going to have a shortage. You're not going to be able to sell that product at all, creating a bad situation for Colorado consumers. Prices signal supply and demand. They are valuable pieces of information. They are not arbitrary. And these legislators who think that they can control the price of goods in Colorado are sorely mistaken.
They a few years ago, the Mises Institute used to give out free books by Henry Hazlitt called Economics in One Lesson. And I think they need a few copies of Economics in One Lesson down at the Gold Dome.
100%, 100%. I don't know. I haven't heard much about this one yet, but very curious, Michael, on this law enforcement whistleblower protection. Any thoughts on that? Have you had a chance to dig into that one yet?
I have not had a chance to dig in this one super well, but from what I'm seeing, I'm very curious about it. We need more whistleblower protection in general. Look at somebody like Edward Snowden, for example. Whistleblowers are very important to protect our human liberty, and um, if these people are sounding the alarm on some real grievances, then they need to be allowed to speak their mind and tell the public what's going on.
100%, 100%. And as libertarians, I think that's something hopefully we can find some common ground with the Democrats. And some of this maybe criminal justice reform, but it's got to be done right. It's got to be done in a way that doesn't totally destroy our state. That's for sure. What are you excited for any clean energy to be to be considered, or nuclear energy to be considered clean energy? This is a bipartisan bill. I mean, you got Valdez and Roberts there, two Democrats with two Republicans, Liston and Winter. I mean, what do you think about nuclear energy, Michael?
I think nuclear energy is definitely something we should look into. Uh, Particularly when we have all these individuals trying to attack coal, natural gas. I mean, we need to do something. Otherwise, our bills are going to be absolutely astronomical. And we're talking about the price of eggs. Same thing is currently happening at a slower rate in Colorado on on our electrical prices. So, it's gone up. The cost to heat my house has gone up dramatically over the last couple years, and I we need to do something.
Definitely. Yeah. Nuclear energy is moving in the right direction for sure. So, yeah, like somebody in the chat says, it could take years for anything to be done. But yeah. But hey, and folks, if you see any of these bills you're interested in, do some research, look them up, and talk to those committee members. Talk to them now, talk to your state legislators, and have them support some of these bills, or at least let them know that you're paying attention to what's happening. 1044, House Bill 1044. This one, really makes me upset. This is a bill from little do-gooder Faith Winter there, who wants to create additional fee-based funding for local vulnerable road user protection strategies. Absolutely ridiculous. Basically, what they want to do is allow local governments to add fees, they're really taxes, but add fees to your vehicle registration so they can put in these protected bike lanes, all these other little schemes that they do. The whole goal is to go after cars, of course. So 1044, horrible, horrible bill.
Oh,
But Michael, yeah, go ahead.
what what are about the fees on bikes? Why is it that the bikes can use the roads, but the people who drive vehicles who would not have lasted this last week when they're riding their bikes on Colorado roads need to be punished? I mean, it makes zero sense. It's absolutely absurd. And then also, one other thing I should note, want to point out is a lot of times these people that are riding their bikes really have no care or concern, if not have a sense of entitlement while they're on the road dealing with people who are in their on their um, who are driving their vehicles on the road. They think it's some weird sense of entitlement, particularly here in the metro area. So, very odd that we are catering to this vulnerable user protection. But then again, we are seeing a transformation, particularly from the top at the executive level through Polis. They want to create their little transit districts. If you guys remember House Bill 24-1313 that got passed narrowly, there's a whole agenda behind this, so it's very concerning. Please reach out and tell your representatives to vote no on this. Absolutely absurd stuff.
Absurd stuff. And in the chat, Finest City Cycling says House Bill 1044 will fund the hazardous segregated bike trap grift along with really bad road diets. Of course, Mark Milliman says 15-minute cities. We've seen this attack on motor vehicles. Hopefully, we have some relief from with the White House changes on some of that, but nonetheless, they're moving full speed ahead here in Colorado. And people, it's really important that we support the good bills. There are good pro liberty bills out there. House Bill 1055 would repeal the firearm dealer requirements and state permit that was passed last year. So that's a bill we need people to support. Let Representative Max Brooks, a freshman representative down there, know you support his bill and definitely start getting involved for that one. I don't think it's going to pass, of course, with the Democrat majority, but nonetheless, good bill. We talked about the electronic fence detection systems. But Michael, are you excited for Ken DeGraff's bill on criminal asset forfeiture?
Absolutely. Ken DeGraff is one of the best reps we have down at the legislature and from either side of the upper or lower house over there. So he's been pushing for civil asset forfeiture for the last few years, and I'm really hoping this is the year that we see it uh, uh, cross that finish line. I know it got close last year, but it didn't quite make it. So let's hope that this one crosses the finish line. I know our friends over at RMGO are also excited about this. So let's hope we can have a real win this time.
Definitely. There's a really good opportunity to pass some civil asset forfeiture, change it into criminal asset forfeiture where they can't take your money unless you've been convicted. We really need people to support House Bill 1067. We will keep you updated about when it goes to committee for sure. Moving on there. Michael, last week, we had Representative Brandy Bradley join us to talk about her bill 1073, protections against child rape. Do you want to fill people in on that for who missed it?
Essentially, they right now you might not even face jail time if you rape a child. It's absolutely mind-boggling that we have these protections for these criminals, particularly the lowest of criminals in Colorado. We need to, as libertarians, we believe in the non-aggression principle, but clearly uh, rape is a form of aggression, and to rape a child is absolutely abhorrent. And it is one of the worst things a human could possibly do to another human being. You are absolutely you're traumatically altering the mind of that person for the rest of their life through that horrific experience. So we need to do more to protect children in this state, and supporting this bill would go a long way. I'm glad that we finally have bipartisan support for this bill. One of the biggest problems we had, Rep. Bradley had last year with this bill, is she didn't have bipartisan support, and now with Rep. English coming along board, she has that now. So let's really help her cross the finish line.
Definitely really excited for that one. Really hoping to see a lot of people testify in support of 1073. Senate Bill 5, absolutely terrible bill. I think that's the one Senator Bright was alluding to with this union bill, eliminating the second election to negotiate a union to create a closed shop. Bad bill, bad bill. We're going to be watching that one closely, and we'll let people know when it's going to be going over to the House and keep you updated there. Of course, Michael, it wouldn't be our state legislature without them going after landlords and property owners and trying to do everything they can to make it harder to rent out property here in Colorado. Really concerned about Senate Bill 20, which would sick the Attorney General, the Colorado Attorney General, on landlords to enforce these tenant laws. Bad stuff. We don't need this heavy-handed approach to landlords. They're just making it so hard for mom and pop renters or rental property owners to participate, and it's so sad. It leads to more shortages, and they're just making it more difficult and more expensive for people to rent. So not a good one there. Any thoughts here? I mean, we're seeing some news about the immigration story as ICE and the DEA and everybody just today arrested 50 illegal immigrants, some connections to the Tren de Agua, TDA, Venezuelan gang people. Any thoughts here on Senate Bill 47, Michael?
Oh yeah, in a perfect world, we wouldn't necessarily need immigration laws, but we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where violent crime is rampant. We also live in a world where we have a previous administration that just is that not only did they open the floodgates, but they advertised with federal dollars to come on up and we'll just let you in. I don't know if you saw the pictures from the border, but there were a lot of people that they had their own special app that they even created for people that wanted to come through in not necessarily legal means to get an appointment to just walk on through the border. And that app shut down the minute that Trump became a president. And um, that's the type of stuff we're dealing with. We've got a real mess. We've seen it, and we see it even locally. You would think so far away from the border, we wouldn't have to have a problem, but they've shipped thousands and thousands of people into Denver itself, and we have a real issue. So we need to do more to protect Coloradans, and this is one way we could possibly do that. So, um, I'm really hoping this one passes. And you're also noticing some change in language from specific people, particularly Jared Polis. He suddenly came out within the last couple days and said that Colorado is not a sanctuary state when we have laws on the books indicating that we are in fact a sanctuary state, and we have uh, there are many comments from a lot of legislatures talking about how proud they are that Colorado is a sanctuary state and Denver is a sanctuary city. So, very, very interesting that they're trying to play both sides and pretend like they never said the words that they did.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch this vote on Senate Bill 47 and we'll let people know when that committee hearing is going to be. But of course, the Republicans in the House and the Senate are basically forcing the Democrats in the state Senate to vote on if they want to enforce federal immigration law or not. I mean, I don't think it's going to pass. I don't think the Democrats have any desire to enforce federal immigration law, but nonetheless, especially with everything going on right now in Colorado, with the Venezuelan gangs and the criminal syndicates and all of this and that. And of course, what's happening in the White House. It'll be very interesting to see how this one plays out.
And you remember how it was just a couple short months ago, we had our wonderful friends at Nine News try to gaslight us about how the problem of the Venezuelan gigs just didn't exist.
Oh, definitely, right? Definitely. And of course, Senate Bill 3, we did talk about that one briefly. That's the horrible, horrible, dangerous gun ban that they're trying to push on Colorado, being heard this Tuesday. So we won't go into any more of that. We'll keep an eye on it, of course. And then I'm not too happy about Senate Bill 33 and not too happy with Representative Ron Weinberg, who's sponsoring this bill. I get it. Local family owned liquor stores are suffering since that grocery stores and gas stations can sell wine and beer, but nonetheless, it is not the right thing to do to restrict new liquor drugstore liquor licenses. The drugstore licenses are what grocery stores use, what Walgreens uses, what all these other places use to sell beer and wine, and they just want to restrict the ability of any new licenses being issued as a protectionist measure to protect the current people who are selling alcohol. I think it's a bad bill, and we'll see how this one plays out. Senate Bill 33. Michael, have you had this one? I know is newer this week. This is the first time we've seen it. This bill was just introduced here on the 22nd, so just a couple days ago. But unfortunately, sad to see Representative or Senator Pelton on this bill. It is a horrible, horrible anti-marijuana, anti-cannabis bill, and also creating new regulations on these natural medicine products that were approved by voters. I mean, this natural medicine was approved by voters. People in Colorado want it. People in Colorado want legal cannabis. They want legal marijuana. They don't want to move backwards to a prohibition type of era. And this bill is so disappointing. Senate Bill 76. I know we're going to be talking about it when it comes up for committee hearing. But Senate Bill 76 is one that people should definitely be very concerned about, especially if you're in the marijuana industry. They want to make it so if you're under 25 years of age, you can't buy marijuana that has too much THC in it. So what is that going to mean? That means they're either getting other people to buy it for them, or they're going to have to smoke twice as much to get the same kind of high they want. So, I mean, you're not solving any problems. You're just hurting businesses, restricting consumer choice, and really attacking the rights of the individual. So, Senate Bill 76, horrible, horrible bill.
I find it so weird and almost Orwellian how they threw in the word social equity on this too. And then you also have senators, you have a Senator Amabile as well as Representative Kyle Brown on this. I mean, two Democrats that I never would have expected to um, sponsor a bill quite like this.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't aware that the Democrats have been in the majority for many years now, and they have passed some really anti-cannabis legislation, and it's unfortunate. We see the market kind of drying up here in Colorado, and so much of it has to do with what they've done at the state legislature. So this is another one that just got introduced this last week, Senate Bill 86. Definitely going to do some research on this, dig into it, but Senate Bill 86 looks like a really concerning bad bill. Protections for users of social media. Folks, we do not need the state government trying to protect us from social media use. Are you kidding me? Senator Frizzell, she's been good on some stuff, terrible on this issue. We saw it last year as well. Doherty, no surprise there. These people are totally wrong. Hartsook, another bad bill for him. It's really disappointing to see Republicans on these bills, but we do not need social media company protection from social media companies, and our state legislature does not need to be doing this. Bad bill, bad bill, and we're going to be talking a lot more about it in coming weeks. And then we're going to have to do some research on this one, but there's digital vending or Colorado Vending of Digital Assets Act. So this has to do with like your Bitcoin ATMs, like your cryptocurrency ATMs, and you're seeing some of those pop up. I'm sure you maybe have seen that in a grocery store, like some of the Coinstar stuff where it says buy crypto here. So of course the government wants to regulate it, wants to push these new things on it. So we'll keep an eye on this one. But I can't imagine it's a good bill. But we'll definitely be doing some research and talking about Senate Bill 79 in the coming weeks. But people watching this live stream, you're getting all this inside information. I guarantee you, you're not seeing this stuff in the regular news media. We're giving you some information about what's happening in our state capital. You're not really finding anywhere else. Michael, any thoughts here on Senate Bill 77, the modifications to the Colorado Open Records Act?
I find it very concerning that Representative Soper is on another bill trying to limit the Colorado open records laws. I mean, what does this man want to hide from Coloradans at this point? I mean, what are they doing? I mean, our legislatures are the ones that we put above us to govern, and yet now our legislatures don't want us to see what they believe. I mean, they're not above us. They should, but that's how it seems like a lot of people who are legislatures feel like. I mean, I'm very concerned that this bill is just going to pass just like it did last year with McCluskey, and I believe it was Soper, and was it another individual? I believe there's a three people that were part of that bill, and it passed where they limited Colorado's Open Records Act. I know there was another one about vexatious requests that got killed in committee, thankfully, but this one is another concerning bill that tells me that our legislatures don't want us to see what we are basically entitled to see.
Definitely. Yeah. The Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition has written about Senate Bill 77. It is a bad bill. Matt Soper should definitely be rethinking what he's doing by supporting this type of horrible legislation. And unfortunately, another bad bill. They want to regulate Kratom. They want to try and control Kratom. Bad bill. I mean, come on. Senator Pelton, Representative Soper, you guys should not be doing this. Senate Bill 72, leave Kratom alone. We saw that they've been threatening to do this for years, but absolutely and utterly terrible. People need to be talking to these people right now and asking them to withdraw this bill because it is so dumb.
Kratom, for some people, Kratom is one of the only things that will actually relieve their pain, and they have severe pain that they can't really go to a lot of big drug companies without severe um, experiencing severe side effects from that as well. So you're putting people in a Faustian bargain of, do I relieve my pain or do something that doesn't really relieve my pain, or do I do something that's going to give me severe side effects? So I think we really need to let people do what's best for themselves, their bodies, because nobody knows what's best for you quite like you do.
100%, 100%. One other one here. I think we're wrapping it up here shortly, folks, but interesting bill. We'll see how this goes. Another bill, just like the immigration enforcement, this would cancel voter registrations of persons not legally qualified to vote because they're not citizens. So, of course, you know that the Democrats are going to kill this bill, but nonetheless, it seems like a slam dunk common sense issue. Senate Bill 57, they're not citizens. They shouldn't be allowed to vote. They should probably be paying attention. Our state government should be paying attention to who is actually a citizen or not, and if they're allowed to vote. And they should be trying to protect that. But unfortunately, that is not the priority of the Democrats. And many people, of course, will say it's because they're trying to get more votes out of it. And I'm sure that is the case. But nonetheless, we'll see how Senate Bill 57 plays out.
Yeah, just remember this the next time somebody tells you that nobody who is a non-citizen is legally allowed to vote or is registered to vote. Because if that were the case, Senate Bill 57 would not exist.
Yeah, fair point. Last one of the week here, and I just got to point this out. So, if anybody knows who Tom Sullivan is, he's a state senator. He's an absolute authoritarian. He wants to ban all the guns if at all possible. Really, really, really bad legislator. Somebody that should not be in state government. But nonetheless, he loves cigars. He loves cigars. We've seen him do this before, but he wants to pass a bill so that his little premium cigars don't have as high of a tax as they currently would under current state statute. So there he goes. He wants to lower taxes on cigars to benefit himself. And don't get me wrong, I support this bill. I think it's a great idea to eliminate these taxes on cigars. It's stupid, it's dumb, but nonetheless, it just goes to show the inconsistent and hypocrisy of some of these state legislators who supposedly are for freedom on some things and against freedom on other things. They say, yeah, we got to restrict marijuana, we got to restrict your gun rights, we got to restrict kratom, psychedelics, but cigars, where they're going to pick and choose what they believe, what they're supporting, and it's just shameful behavior. So I just at least need to bring this up. So Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
No, I agree with you. I mean, this is the same Tom Sullivan that is trying to take away our gun rights while after a year ago saying, "Hey, we don't a assault weapons ban is a bridge too far." And then this year he turns around and becomes the prime sponsor. So, and remember that the next time he brings up his son dying at the Aurora Theater, because that's all he does is talk about his son dying at the Aurora Theater, and it's basically like he's stomping on his own son's grave, and I find it absolutely disgusting.
Definitely disgusting, definitely disappointing. Really want to thank you, Michael. You did, this was awesome this week. We had some great guests. It was an awesome live stream. There's a lot to go back and watch if people want to slow it down and see what we talked about 2 hours ago. There's really important bills being heard this week, and we definitely just encourage people to get involved, to speak out, to have regular communication with your state rep, your state senator, and participate. It really is going to take the participation of liberty-minded Coloradans to make some progress in moving us towards a free state. And we're here fighting. We're here fighting. We're going to be down at the state capitol tomorrow in support of House Bill 1074 for the eggs. And then, of course, most of us will be down there again on Tuesday for the gun bill. So let's do what you can, get involved, and let's at least try, right? I mean, at least you say you were down there, you spoke, you did what you could. It's better than just staying home, right? So
Yeah. And there's
awesome.
nothing quite like looking your legislators in the eye and saying, "Hey, I really appreciate you putting this bill forth. Let's make sure this happens for the state of Colorado." And there's not also nothing quite like looking those same legislators in the eye and saying, "How dare you? You are destroying my individual liberty. You are stripping my rights away." Uh, and just basically looking them eye and essentially telling them off.
It is valuable. So I appreciate everybody who's watching. Share this content. We'll get it out there. Follow us on X, Facebook, but I'm sure we'll see a lot of you down at the Capitol this week and appreciate it. But everybody have a great night. And we'll see you next week at the very least, 7:30 on the Free State Colorado YouTube channel. We'll be doing the live stream. We'll be back. So thank you guys and take care.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.